going on, guys? Welcome back to another Game Time Discussions. I'm Emery Kelsey. I'm sitting here with Dustin Zimmerman, and we're going to be going back over the Week 12 college football part of the season, and then looking forward to the Week 13. Week 12 was interesting. We had some big games that we'd already talked about earlier in the week that we knew were going to, make headlines, but we didn't expect so many teams to lose in the top 25. That'll be something we go over here in a minute. Just an insane amount of teams that fell that we weren't expecting, that should not have lost. It's a debacle, believe me.
Some we predicted that didn't happen, some we didn't expect at all that did happen.
Yeah, whole thing. But let me pull up the screen now so y'all can see it. There we go. Okay. So here is last week's top 25. This is the top 25 after. So we record this show on Monday night.
Yes.
This show comes out on Tuesday afternoon, and the AP polls were released on Sunday are what we go based on, not the college football playoff committee's rankings. So
last time, but
yeah, I want to so you know that this isn't necessarily where they will be post Tuesday.
Well, what you might see on TV, there's a lot of times they're using the college football rankings. That's why the numbers are going to be low.
Right. So
nobody else does anymore.
Yeah, but you won't see it until Wednesday, so it doesn't really matter at that point. And we have so many other shows we have to record, so that's why this doesn't get out later on in the week. But yeah, looking at the top 25 from last week, we knew some of these teams were going to be playing each other, so we knew some were going to drop. We knew Tennessee played up against Georgia, and then, of course, South Carolina and Missouri. But let's talk about those games right now on our games to recap. First game was, of course, Tennessee and Georgia. We talked about this game. You picked Tennessee to win. You actually picked them as one of your spread picks.
Yes, I did.
We just didn't expect Georgia to be good.
I didn't expect Carson Beck to be good.
Fair.
I said I still like the rest of Georgia. Carson Beck, though, playing against Tennessee, having I believe at the time they're the second defense.
Yes.
I expected him to continue with his 3 interceptions before he throws a touchdown streak he had going on.
Right.
We did not get that Carson Beck this week. We got, I'm good at football again, and I'm on Georgia, and Kirby Smart's a good coach, Carson Beck. And Tennessee's offense still doesn't look good.
No, yeah, that was the biggest problem when I was talking about it. Was like I picked Georgia to win. I said it was going to be a close game because I thought both offenses just suck.
Right.
And of course, like you said, Carson Beck did come out to play, but at the same time, like I don't know what to say when Nico has been so bad. For the last 4 or 5 weeks, Nico has been really so bad.
It's weirdly bad too.
Yeah.
He looks like he's not confused isn't the word. I don't necessarily want to say timid because I hate calling high level athletes timid or scared.
Right.
Because I would not know what to do if I was out there.
Yeah.
So I hate using those words. But he just seems to have all the ability. He's got good receivers, and then it just and a good running back. So it's not like defense can key on one or the other.
Right.
And they just don't do anything with it.
I wonder. I mean, he is young. Don't get me wrong, and that's a big thing, of course.
Redshirt freshman.
Yeah. He's probably not even 20 yet at this point. You could look, of course, but at the same time, just talking about him in general, I don't know if it's coaching. Maybe that could be okay.
He just turned 20 in September.
Yeah, exactly. That could be something that has to go with it. Is coaching is the problem.
Yeah.
Maybe it's his receivers are getting open, so that's not the problem.
Right.
That's not what it is.
I mean, good receiving.
Exactly. So they did go up 10-0 in the first quarter, which was good to see. But then after halftime, they did not score any points. Georgia pulls away because Carson Beck does. Carson Beck doesn't have to be good. That's the thing about Georgia.
No.
They have a good defense. They have a solid run game, really good offensive line. He doesn't have to be good. Finally gets these tight ends involved that we talked about all season long.
I was going to say, did you see Oscar Delp?
Oh, my God.
Pretty good game himself.
Yeah, 2 touchdowns, I believe, in that game.
Mm-hmm.
Both of the touchdowns through the air. That's what we wanted to see from this team.
Right.
And we hadn't seen these Benjamin Urasek, Oscar Delp, 2 tight end situations. Getting them involved was what Georgia kind of needed to do. Apparently Carson Beck, they came in with a good game plan. He played well. 40 attempts and didn't throw an interception after throwing 12 in the last 6 weeks. So he played a lot better. They won the game. That's not necessarily. I wasn't necessarily wrong. I had Georgia winning. You were wrong in this situation because
I felt really good at first. I was telling our friend
10-0, yeah.
I was like, yep, exactly what I expected. And then after that, they were like, oh, we're done playing.
Yeah, they forgot.
Time to go back.
But then going to the next game, Clemson-Pitt was an awesome game. I don't know if you got to watch the end of it.
I didn't catch most of it. I don't remember what was the big game that morning. Oh, I was watching Texas-Arkansas
that
morning. And then I flipped over because that one ended weirdly quickly.
You're right.
Klubnik's 50-yard QB draw after they had like 38 rush yards for the game or something up to that point.
It was an awesome way to end the game, of course. I felt heartbroken for Pittsburgh because I was like, oh, this is like such a big school win.
Program building.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They're still good, don't get me wrong, but they still don't have Eli. Holstein's not back, and playing without him is hard, but they had Clemson on the ropes, and it was coming down to the wire, and I was really excited to see and Cam and I were actually here. We were behind on the stream, did not know it. We were watching the game about 5 minutes behind the stream, and I'm like, oh, so I jumped to live, and that's when Cade scored the touchdown. During that, like, right as we jumped to live, it's everybody's celebrating, and we got to see the replay, basically. We didn't actually get to see the touchdown, but yeah, that was a huge play and keeps Clemson in the race to make the playoffs.
Game for them.
Yeah.
At this point, we had ruled out Pitt, essentially.
Yes.
More or less. But Clemson still has a chance at making the ACC championship game. They needed this one. A 50-yard Cade Klubnik run is somehow the one that keeps them afloat.
Yeah, and next week what we're going to do is we're going to do scenarios based on all of these different teams and making the not the college football playoff, but the championship game for their division. So the SEC will go Big 12 and all those teams because we will know at that point what they have to do to get in.
Right. I mean, we're going to do our normal roundups where we talk about those, and there's still just so many teams.
They're all over the place.
Have chances,
especially in the SEC. It's crazy. But and then the last game on this board, I actually was pretty surprised at how well Missouri played. Their running game looked really good, and I was surprised by that. But as we said, South Carolina was going to win this game, pulled it out. I really like the South Carolina team, and I know
continue to improve too.
Well, the biggest thing is when Lenore Sellers is healthy. When he's not healthy, they have lost games, and that's something we knew could possibly happen. Mm-hmm. But when he is healthy, they're basically undefeated. They lost one game with him healthy at this point in the year, I believe, and that's a big thing, especially in the eyes of the committee. I'm not going to say they're going to get in, but they're a 3-loss team in the SEC. Have beaten good teams. Mm-hmm. There's opportunities for teams like this to make big bowls.
Right.
Possibly sneak in at the 12th spot. I don't see that happening, but hey, it's not impossible.
A lot of dominoes in the way, but it is a possibility.
Yeah. So. I believe they have like probably a 15% chance or something like that.
We'll touch on it. It was later on.
Yes. But yeah, that was a great game. I got to watch that game, and it was fun to watch. They were down, I believe.
They were. It was in the last minute or two that South Carolina scored the go-ahead touchdown.
That's right. I do remember. Yep. Lenore Sellers had 353 passing yards.
Yeah.
He's a running back, and he had 353 passing yards. So going on to this next thing here, top 25 teams that lost. There are 7 teams that fell this week.
I love chaos.
This is what I like to see.
No problem from me. No complaints here.
I can't wait for the Big 12 scenario. I know we'll talk about recaps in a little bit, but I did pick BYU to get a first round bye.
Yes.
And I'm actually excited to see a no Big 12 team in the playoffs. Like, that would be even more fun than me getting BYU right.
Yeah.
Would be that no Big 12 teams make the playoffs.
Yeah. One of the Power 4 just ends up not making it at all.
Exactly. So that scenario would be fun. But as you can see, Tennessee did lose to a ranked team. BYU, who else lost to a ranked team this week? Missouri. And everybody else, I believe, lost to a non-ranked.
They were all unranked.
Yeah. So 5 teams losing games that were probably expected to win. LSU losing to Florida was crazy. They got beat up pretty, like, pillar to post, basically, the whole time they were playing. Kansas State losing a really good game to Arizona State. We'll talk about them in a minute.
They're a fun one.
Yeah.
They're making some jumps.
Washington State, we talked about last week, Pac-12, no resume, loses to New Mexico. Means nothing, basically, anymore. But yeah.
Then we'll touch on when we get to the new rankings. But I don't understand that. I'll say it again in a few minutes once we get there.
Yeah. But yeah, these are the top 25 teams that lost, and they're 7-0. So
yeah,
basically a third of the teams, or under a third of the teams going down, basically 30%. So yeah, I'm excited. Let's go on though. Here is the new AP rankings, week 13 AP rankings. Lots of green up there on the board. I'm going to let you start off the AP Rapid Fire.
Yeah, so I am not quite as sad as when Virginia Tech had their win ripped away from them against Miami, but Wisconsin blowing this one really hurts. Mainly because we were both out at an event, so we didn't get to watch most of it, but I was home to watch the fourth quarter. And I didn't get to see any of the fun of Wisconsin actually winning, and what I did see was them basically do nothing on offense the whole
fall apart.
Quarter. I didn't get any of the fun of the potential upset. Oregon's number one. They deserve to be number one, in my opinion. I don't have any issues with them being up there. I don't have any argument against it. But it does show that they are not this untouchable, unbeatable team. Obviously, the 1-point win against Ohio State, and then now almost losing to Wisconsin, who hasn't exactly had a stellar season. They are on bye this next week, so we don't get any more potential chaos for Oregon.
For sure.
So number one.
I think it's cool to see all four of the top four teams were away games, and they all basically handled business. I mean, Oregon had a close game in Wisconsin, but everybody else handled business. Ohio State, dominant. Texas, defense was dominant.
Yeah, defense dominant. Offense, still some things to figure out, but defense looks fantastic.
And then Penn State, they blow out Purdue as expected.
I feel bad for Purdue.
Yeah,
they are getting kicked around by the top.
Yeah, they happen to play every single good Big Ten team.
Well, it sucks because they get the whole Spoilermakers moniker, and after that first one, when they got smacked by Oregon, every other time, no one's been like, "Are they going to be the Spoilermakers?" It's just, "Oh no, here we go again."
Yeah, this is not that team from a few years ago, basically anymore.
This is just sad.
We will touch on Indiana versus Ohio State in a second. That is the game of the week.
Excuse you, that is Windiana, aka Tindiana to you.
I would love if it would be 11 Indiana or whatever we're going to call them after this week. Believe me,
it's a mouthful, but it's so worth it.
Yeah, I'll do it. It's absolutely perfect name for this team. They're very exciting. They do have the game of the week. They did have a bye this week, which is huge, but they do have to go to Ohio State, so that's a little tough. And then Notre Dame. They handle Virginia, who's actually looks pretty good this year. They do have Army this week, so that will be an awesome game. We'll talk about the game of the weeks in a second, but that's going to be a fun game. Alabama beats up on Mercer, which is not nice.
We're in that part of the SEC schedule where they just do all the cupcakes at the end, at the beginning, like most other conferences do. There are a couple others like that we'll touch on, but I mean, Bama's kind of earned their way back in the playoff.
They're number 7. They've had a lot of dominoes fall in their way.
Oh, 100%.
So that's also helpful. If we got this scenario where everybody won out in games we expected them to win, it might not be this easy.
Right.
But at this point, Cam was absolutely right, and Alabama is going to be in the playoffs most likely unless they lose a random game to Oklahoma or I believe Auburn. Auburn is their other game.
Yeah, Iron Bowl, which again, I've talked about it with other games, but rivalry games, I never just say that's an instant check.
Right, for sure. Georgia, we talked about, they put it on Tennessee pretty good. That was a fun game. They are actually done with SEC play, so they have no more SEC games for the rest of the year. So their destiny is awaits what happens with everybody else basically at this point.
And they need someone else to space.
Right. Ole Miss, they're going to Florida this next week. That is becoming a really tough game because Florida, with DJ Lagway starting, has been amazing. He is 3-0 as a starter throughout the whole game.
Right.
3-1 after coming in for Graham Mertz. Yeah, okay.
Well, don't forget the Billy Napier special in that A&M game when they would score a touchdown and still alternate QBs.
That was the one that he lost. That I'm talking about where he lost.
I thought it was a great game. Yeah, they should. I was very glad they stuck to their guns, and Billy Napier was very confident in that plan.
They're probably trying to put Graham Mertz out there without an ACL.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. The next team on the board, just Tennessee, loses to Georgia. Dylan Sampson is awesome at football.
He's really good.
Dude's a stud.
It's pretty sad that Nico hasn't gotten the passing game figured out because that offense would be so fun, or that team really, with how good their defense is.
Right.
Would be so amazing.
I think Dylan Sampson's gone over 100 yards every game this year. It feels like. I don't even know. I don't have his.
Like
I mean, he has been awesome. Miami, yeah. They got to lose last week, and everybody was excited about it.
So fun.
They play Wake Forest, but basically Miami's into the playoff or into the ACC championship as long as they win, and they have a pretty cupcake into this. But don't get me wrong, Miami can blow it as they've tried to in every game this year. So
I will never trust a Mario Cristobal. So yeah,
fair
it's
enough.
Very possible.
Boise State, number 12. Ashton Genty had 3 touchdowns, 159 yards. I thought it was hilarious. The adjusted line for him was 160.5.
Yeah.
That one of our buddies sent to us. And he did not hit it on 32 rushes because that is just so many rushing yards.
Yeah,
like
that's a lot.
We're just
one player, college player.
Every week.
In a college game.
Every single week he's got 160-yard minimum adjusted value on all of his spreads.
Right.
San Jose State's good, guys. Like we've talked about them before.
Bad.
Nick Nash had a great game. Don't know if you watched. So he did it again. But yeah, Boise State, number 12. SMU if they win out, they are also going to be into the playoffs. So I mean into the ACC championship game and
potentially playoff, depending on
right. If they
kind of how that game goes, even if they lose, there is a chance.
Right, for sure.
Again, need some dominoes thrown their way. But they also haven't looked dominant. They got really lucky against Duke, blocking a last-second field goal, and then they almost lost this past one against Boston College.
Yeah.
The game was a 10-point game, but they also scored a touchdown with 40 seconds left. Because Boston College sold out for the run, because they kind of had to. There was no other way to win the game.
Right, exactly. Well, BYU is one of the teams that we talked about losing. They are now at 14 from, I believe, 7. They lose to the Kansas Jayhawks, who were 3-6 last week.
Best 6-loss team in the country.
Yep. They are. We'll talk about them again in a minute, but they are now 4-6. They just can't, and they couldn't score. And it's not like we're not talking about Kansas as a dominant defense. We actually look at them as a offense that has good players and Devin Neal and Jalen Daniels and stuff like that. Right, exactly. So their offense is what excites us, not their defense. And they hold BYU, who has been very, very struggling to say the least. You always talk about how teams are, should we trust them? Well, BYU didn't earn our trust based on beating Utah by 1 point and things like that.
Right.
Well, it shows up against Kansas. They lose their game 17-13. They have a huge game this week against Arizona State. And I'm funny enough, I know my prediction. We talked about this second. I am rooting for Arizona State to win that game. Arizona State is, and we'll talk about them, they're at 21, but they're very good also. And I have
Kenny Dillingham.
Yeah.
Turning that team around from multiple 3-win seasons to now
for sure
vying for a Big 12 championship spot, potentially.
They were the 14th team, I believe, preseason ranked.
I think he was ranked 16th himself.
As the coach?
He was
okay.
the last ranked predicted coach. So I think maybe team, I don't know, but
no more.
Was 14th or 16th as the predicted. He's now up to what, 3rd?
Probably. Yeah, that makes sense. This one's yours, though.
Yeah. Like I said earlier when I mentioned the cupcake games for the SEC, this was ours, played in Mexico State. Aggies versus Aggies, 38-3, not close. Unfortunately, Enum did lose their 3rd best wide receiver, which has been a tough area for them, to an arm injury. Cyrus Allen, he's going to undergo surgery. So take a poll for anyone who doesn't know Aggies is how the students get their.
That was hilarious.
It starts the Monday morning for that week because next week is Thanksgiving. Classes aren't going to be there. They're doing the ticket poll for the Texas game this week. People leaving the New Mexico State game walked past. Obviously, they're leaving the stadium. Students were lined up already.
Yes.
In chairs. Before the end of the last home game, they are already lining up. There were big like ambushes, rampages. Cops were called out to try to figure things out, and they were like, "We don't know what to do. There's thousands of y'all."
Yeah.
So there have been college students sitting out in the rain for 48 hours waiting just to get a ticket for the Texas game. There were also more fans at the A&M New Mexico State game than there were the Texas Georgia game.
What?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
They
I
did
did
about
not.
like 300 people or something.
I did
and
not
people
know
were
that.
like,
That's
they're
amazing.
going to break Kyle Field when Texas comes.
Yes, it's going to be
ridiculous.
amazing. No, I did see those videos. Those videos were hilarious because I was like, wait, they don't play Texas for 2 more weeks? Like, how does that make
It
any
makes
sense?
no sense because of the whole Thanksgiving thing.
Right.
But also, what?
Yeah.
You're going to sit out there for that long?
Well, I was talking to Taylor and Dustin both went to A&M. Taylor went her first semester, and then Dustin had graduated from there. But Taylor used to tell me that you would get her tickets because you were older, so you were capable.
It's by seniority,
Yeah.
so the more hours you get, the earlier you do. So 90 and above do Mondays, and then down on Thursday and Fridays, freshmen and whatnot.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So yeah, but essentially you just had to have somebody there that was an upperclassman. So for Taylor, I would go in and blah, blah, blah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's go on to Colorado, though, because I think that this is something that we have to talk about. Colorado is playing Kansas, who just took out BYU, the best 6-loss team in the nation that Dustin keeps saying, right?
They're the best 6-loss team in the
They
country.
were favored. I'm sorry, BYU was only favored by 2 in that game.
Yep.
Well, we'll talk about this game in a minute, but this is a very interesting game also. Colorado did pull away from Utah, but that game was a lot closer than the score shows. They did win by 25, but it was much closer.
Utah's also on their 6th-string quarterback.
Isaac Wilson, you're going to get away. That is Zach Wilson's little brother.
I feel bad for that team, though.
No, for sure.
Lost. And, I feel bad for Florida. They kept getting injured. And then you look at Utah, and quite literally the whole QB room is
it's tough, man.
Multiple guys out for the year. They're on, their 4th or 5th stringer now?
I don't know off the top of my head, honestly.
It's one of those.
It's pretty
something insane. I just feel so bad for them.
Well, don't forget their best player is actually out also. Their tight end. So add that to the list. But they did hold that game in pretty close until the 4th quarter, halfway through the 3rd.
They didn't do bad for having all of that adversity.
Yeah, Clemson, we talked about earlier, they get the Citadel, so they get their cupcake coming against the Citadel. And then they still have a chance for the ACC, which is good. And then Army, we talked about with Notre Dame. South Carolina up next. They've looked awesome. They get to play one of our close friends, alums. Yeah. They're playing Wofford. We have a buddy that played soccer at Wofford, and his team is going to get annihilated this week.
Yeah, it's going to be bad.
But they're a pretty good football team over there in South Carolina. Next up, Tulane. They absolutely worked Navy. The 35-0 game. That was pretty crazy to see.
Yeah. So it looked fun. They're putting something together over there. Unfortunately, Willie Fritz.
I was going to say, though, unfortunately, they have 2 losses.
Yeah.
And that's going to really hurt their chances of getting in.
It's going to require Boise State basically imploding.
Well,
UNLV.
And of course, Army can't beat Notre Dame.
Yeah.
So all the things need to work out for them to get
quite a bit going. Cool for them to be number 20.
Yeah, for sure. Arizona State, we talked about. They're up against BYU this week, game of the week. We'll talk about that spread in a minute. That's an interesting spread. Mm-hmm. Iowa State gets back into the top 25. There's a lot of teams, actually. All 4 of the 21 through 24 were outside of the top 25, but as we showed y'all earlier, 7 teams lost. So multiple teams fell out. So all these teams get in. Iowa State, okay. They're okay. Yeah, whatever.
Nothing got exposed, like I said.
Multiple times.
I told you I didn't trust in them. That's why. They can be 22, sure.
Whatever. UNLV, though, is more interesting because they do beat San Diego State by 21. My Superdog was 20.5. Tough day. That's 3 times I've lost by 1, I believe.
I did not jinx that one either.
No, you didn't. Not this time.
Not my fault.
They do play San Jose State. We've talked about them. San Jose State is good. Of course. Well, we did see that Boise State beat them 42-21. We should hope that UNLV can beat them by a few points, but they're better than you think.
San Jose State did have the early lead in that one. Was it 14-0 or just 7?
I think it was 14. Yeah, I think it was 14. Then you have the Illinois. Yeah, going up against Rutgers. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Big 10 mid-tier card.
Whatever. Then the The nice Washington State team that we don't understand why they lost to New Mexico.
So I don't honestly care that they lost to New Mexico. Washington State's kind of been a meh team all year. My issue with this is that New Mexico was 4-6 going into that game, and they were 112th in FBI, and Washington State is still ranked.
That's absolutely fair. No, I completely agree with that. Why is Missouri not here?
Right. I mean, if we're going to do that, Missouri goes toe-to-toe with South Carolina, who's jumping up rankings everywhere. And we've got Washington State above them.
What about, let's see, who else is getting votes? Memphis.
Yeah. I mean, I would even keep Louisville above Washington State.
Syracuse, who's been playing well. Yeah, there's some teams here that definitely deserve to be in over Washington State. I completely agree with that.
Mexico of all teams.
That's fair. Completely agree with that.
Shout out to Mexico for the upset, though. It's fun.
They do.
Chaos once again.
We do get to watch finally a Pac-12 game.
Yes, we get the one Pac-12 game
of the year.
It's about time
because they will be playing Oregon State this week. But yeah, so
call it now sicko game of the week.
Really?
I mean,
they're both bad.
It's not going to be good.
All right, let me pop to the next thing. We're going to talk about our games of the week. First game on tap is Ohio State versus Indiana. Let me get this right. Windiana, whatever you want to call them. They are undefeated. They are going to the Big House to play. Not the Big House. That's Michigan.
You're going to offend some people with that.
I appreciate it. I get that. Big Ten. Y'all. I bet they do get offended up there. But yeah, looking at this game, do you have a win? Obviously, there's a win.
Yeah, Ohio State.
Okay.
Indiana has officially become territory where I can say, I don't know if I can trust you yet, like I had earlier in the year. Unfortunately, all but one of those teams earlier lost, and I feel bad because I like this Indiana team, but they've just played absolutely no one. I have no reason to believe that they will. Some of the analyst picks I saw have them losing by like 30 this week.
Wow.
I don't think that'll happen by any means.
I think this is a closer game.
I don't mind the spread, honestly, 12.5. But I think Ohio State wins.
Yeah, I actually completely agree with you. I think that this is actually a close game. I don't think this is because I do think their offense has been good. Yeah. They do have some really solid defensive players that are making names for themselves. Yeah. You have to have. I mean, they're 10-0. Someone has to step up and play well, right? So,
absolutely. They're purely by luck.
Right? They have one of the highest rated PFF offensive lines in the nation, top 5 every week of the year. So I don't think that it's going to be one of those things where they just get blown out because Ohio State hasn't played good. It would be one thing if Ohio State was just, since the Oregon game, beating everybody by 50. But Ohio State's had some close games. So we can't just, draw them in as like this dominant team.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Let me see. They beat Purdue 45-0. But the close game against Penn State, I don't know how good Penn State is. Nebraska the week before, 21-17. Northwestern's meh. So Indiana is actually their best test since the Oregon game, in my opinion, because I actually think Indiana's better than Penn State.
Oh, that's fair.
So I think that the spread makes sense for that reason also. It's going to be a good game. Yeah. Going to be a great game environment too. Notre Dame, there's your team.
Yeah, give me Notre Dame.
Okay. Spread?
Probably covering the spread.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not going to say like I'm 100% confident lock of the week or anything.
Right.
But yeah,
I think so too. I think they're probably 20 points better than Army.
I mean, I'm kind of viewing this almost the exact same, except a little bit farther margin as the Ohio State Indiana one. Like it's fun. I wanted Indiana to win. Yeah. It'd be super cool. It'd be awesome if Army pulled off a win.
Hey.
But in no way do I think they're going to.
Right, for sure. So, I think the thing with Army here is they just have to play their style game and run the clock and keep it close in those ways and give themselves a chance late in the game to win because they do that. That's what their offense is based off of. The triple option is like, hey, we're going to run the clock, we're going to hold the ball, we're going to make it very uncomfortable for you when you have the ball.
Right.
And then hopefully at the end of the game we have a chance to be the last team with the ball. Is normally how I look at it. I don't think that'll happen. I think they're going to get stuffed a couple times and then they're going to get behind and they're going to have to throw and be uncomfortable.
Right.
And Notre Dame will win the game. But then
that game's at Yankee Stadium too.
Yeah.
It's just going to be
weird. Yeah, weird. BYU against the Arizona State Sun Devils. I can't believe the spread. -3.5.
Oh, you think BYU should be favored?
I think they should. Yeah, I think that's kind of a tad bit disrespectful.
Really?
Oh, come on, Dustin, a little bit. Like they've been
dilly. Give me the Sun Devils.
I actually will be picking the Sun Devils off, but that's not the point.
Fun here.
That's not the point.
I thought you were going to stick by your guns of BYU getting their first round bye.
No, I want chaos.
You're going team.
I want chaos. I want chaos, man.
Fair enough.
The Sun Devils did kind of spoil my original prediction with Texas State, beating them 31-28, third game of the year. Close game. They're good. And it all starts with their running back, Scadaboo.
Yes.
He is a absolute stud. Cam Scadaboo. He just runs so hard, and he's like 5'8", 5'9", I guess. Yeah. And he's so close to the ground, he just doesn't go down. No. He's got great balance, and he kicks the shit out of all these teams that he's been playing. The only team that's beat them, two teams that beat them, Texas Tech and Cincinnati. Those games were both at those places. No. Coming to Arizona, they have been really on, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So that'll be a super fun game.
Yeah, that one's exciting. That one's more exciting. I just thought that, BYU should be favored, in my personal opinion. I don't think we should have a situation where Arizona State's favored in this game.
I think it's purely momentum and who's home type of thing. I think if BYU didn't lose last game, they would be favored. It'd be probably just even.
Pick them.
Yeah, and then if it was at BYU, it'd be flipped the other way. BYU -3 now.
Okay, fair. Next game, got to put this one on here: Colorado versus Kansas, because we're just ready to see Kansas take down the Big 12, run through them.
What's that? 2 straight ranked Big 12 wins.
Yes, that's why this is exciting. This is an exciting team to not want to play. You do not want to play this game.
And Lawrence.
No, I know.
I know basketball season's kicked off. They're all a little bit more hyped than usual. I don't know. Actually, it was I forgot they barely lost to Kansas State too. It was almost 3 straight.
Yes, they almost beat Kansas State. They
beat Iowa State and then BYU.
Right.
After destroying Houston.
Yes.
And they only lost to Arizona State by 4. But all that being said, I want the Jayhawks. They come back against the wall. They have to win to make a bowl game. They literally don't have an option. I doubt they're going to rely on academic standards. They're not at Harvard. I'm sure they're fine, but hard to get in at 5-7.
Yes.
So I'm truly going to go with Kansas winning this game.
This team has turned around everything since. Yeah. I mean, they were 1-5 the first 6 weeks.
Yep. That
included losing to Arizona State, the 6th game, but then turning around this program, they've done a really good job beating Houston, almost beating Kansas State, like you said, lost by 2 at Kansas State.
Yeah.
Iowa State beating them by 9, and then BYU. If they do it again, this is, like you said, best 6th-loss team in the nation. But yeah, I think they definitely deserve a bowl game. They're going to be better than most of the teams that make the bottom bowls.
Oh, yeah.
100%. And they might not get in if they have 7 losses. Or they won't get in if they have 7 losses.
Their last game is Baylor. So
good game, too.
They will need to win this one, obviously, again, to make a bowl game. I want them to do it. Pull off a generational run of survival.
Against some of the best teams in their conference. Like, literally the best teams in their conference. They're just knocking one another. But yeah, this is a super fun game. I'm really excited to see what happens here. Let me stop sharing and switch
tabs. That quick aside of Kansas making a generation run to make a bowl. Nebraska is now 0-9 in their last bowl clinching games.
0-9.
0-9 in their last 9 bowl clinching games.
Nebraska?
Yep.
Wow.
The last 9 where they're at 5 wins.
So even right now is what you're saying.
Their last one made them 0-9. They were 0-8 before that.
Gotcha. Well, let's move over to the Heisman Hopefuls page. This is the page where we talk about guys that have odds based on winning the Heisman. And I am actually, I don't really care who's at the top, right? Really. I care that it's not a quarterback.
I care that it's not Cam Ward.
Fair enough. He's third. But I mean, I'm so happy it's not a quarterback. We're in a generation, we're finally where it's like, okay, there are good enough players at other positions to be the best player in the nation and have the most impact on their teams to give them an opportunity to be minus 365. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm more on the Ashton Jeanty side, but he's actually slowed down.
I was about to say, at this point, I've flipped. I get it. Give it to Hunter. I think I saw a stat the other day, like in the last, I don't know, 30, 40 years or something, there's only been 3 players with 40 receptions and 3 picks, and it's him this year, him last year, and then Champ Bailey.
I believe it's
in college.
5 touchdowns and 3 picks also.
Oh, I didn't see that one.
That's also, but I don't know what the
know
amount of
Champ
time.
Bailey in it then.
Maybe not. It might have been Jabril Peppers.
This is the one I saw that was on
Right.
the game graphics.
But yeah, so minus 365. If y'all don't know what that means you have to put $365 down, and you would win $100 on top of that too. That's what the minus means. Plus 377 for Ash Genti would be putting $100 down and then making the 377 on top of that. So those are your odds. That's huge. Those are huge numbers. That's like 70% of the time he's going to win it right now. And so that's really awesome.
He's run away with it. It's his to lose, basically.
Right.
At this point.
And when do they vote? It's pre-title game.
Definitely before the bowl games.
Bowl games. That's what I meant.
Yeah. I think it's right after conference championships.
That makes sense.
I think it's between the conference championships and bowl starting.
If Colorado goes, he's definitely getting it.
I mean, even at this point, if they lose, I think the thing is because it's not a quarterback who we traditionally see as the decider of the game, which is not totally fair. That's another conversation. For him, because he's a wide receiver and cornerback, if they say they lose to Kansas because Jalen Daniels throws it to the opposite side of the field, and for whatever reason that corner gets burned every play, there's nothing Travis Hunter could have done about that.
Right.
Even though on his stats he gave up 0 catches, but the team gave up 40, and that's not, you can't knock him. So it kind of gives him a buffer, really.
Well, the buffer is also him playing well on offense.
Well, right.
You know what I
mean? He's also got 2 opportunities.
He plays like 80% of the snaps, I believe.
I think it's more than that.
Is it more than that
At least in the big games.
Okay.
He'll play all but like 2 snaps or something. Like insane numbers.
Yeah, because I saw some stats on him, like how many snaps he's been playing this year, just overall, and it's basically like 80 to 85%. So I'm guessing those are like when they're winning by so much and stuff like that. Yeah, that makes sense. But he's been amazing. I can't knock him for it. Colorado has been super surprising. I believe that their total win percentage or over under for wins was 5.5.
Yeah, they're going to beat it. I know
they're way over it. I mean, obviously they're way over it. They have 9 wins or 7 wins, I believe. 8 wins, 8 and 2. Yeah, there you go. So
we're already at that point here.
It's crazy. Let's go to our season recap for our picks. I'm going to let you go first.
Yeah, mine are looking. One of them's looking good. Notre Dame, I think. They control their own destiny. They need to handle Army, and then they end their season with USC, who has been very underwhelming from where we expected them to be.
Right.
Although they did just get Hassan Longstreet, 5-star QB, decommit from A&M and then commit to them. So,
I believe Julian Lewis. No.
Yeah, Julian Lewis
decommitted from them
essentially because they knew that was not time.
Right, exactly. The other way.
Which he's expected to go to Colorado.
Yes.
But Notre Dame should control their own destiny, should pretty much be able to get in.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, that they're 14-point favorites against Army this week, which is obviously huge. In Yankee Stadium. Thank you.
Cool.
So it will be one of those things where I think they get in.
Yeah.
The 14 points is huge, obviously. They're going to be bigger favorites against USC, even at USC.
Yeah.
So,
we talked about those cross-country trips. I think that's
going
to be interesting.
Tough.
We'll see how that season ends out for USC.
Okay, so we'll take the spread on USC, but they're still going to win?
Maybe.
Okay.
Depends what they set the spread at.
Fair. But yeah, so Notre Dame's in a pretty good spot. I'm going to go over, we just talked about this a lot, but BYU is my team. I believe that they will, or I stated that I believe that they will get into the college football playoffs and get a first-round bye, winning the conference championship. They have 2 games left. Arizona State, who we didn't expect to necessarily be this good. And then Houston, who is, I believe, 3-4 in the conference, 4-5, 4-6 overall. I think that this is obviously very possible. If they lose Arizona State, I think that changes everything because that would put them at a 2-loss team. They would have the loss to Arizona State. Colorado would be the team getting in automatically. So they might not make the conference championship. If they don't make the conference championship, they're not getting in the playoffs.
Right.
So I believe, and we'll talk about it in a minute, but their chances of making the conference championship and their chances of making the college football playoffs in our roundup. But definitely a team that you should watch out for.
Yep. that game against Arizona State's going to be a big decider.
And then I'll let you talk about this one.
Clemson. Well, we talked about it after they blew it against Louisville.
Right.
Also, subsequently blew it this past week. They played really well against Pitt, though. Pulled that one off. The Citadel, they should win by 40, whatever you want to talk about that one. I said that they would win the ACC. It is still possible. I don't know the tiebreaker.
Miami has to lose.
Miami has it over them.
Yeah, Miami has to lose.
Do you know the tiebreaker? What it is? Because they didn't play each other.
I believe it's a head-to-head. I mean, it's a conference schedule.
It's all conference opponent wins.
Yeah.
So that's what the SEC is coming down to.
Right. And we'll talk about both of those things later. But yes, Miami has to lose to get Clemson in.
Like you said about Georgia earlier, they're done with conference. Clemson's done with conference.
Mm-hmm.
They've got Citadel and then a really fun just game against South Carolina.
Right.
What's really weird is if Miami does lose, Clemson could lose that game to South Carolina, still be in the conference championship. And then if they win that, you have a 3-win.
Three loss.
3-loss ACC champion, which gets really weird too.
Yeah, we might not have an ACC team.
But again,
which would be crazy.
Get into all the scenarios more next week once we have some more answers.
So
what's going to happen?
I want chaos, Dustin. Give me chaos.
It seems like it's happening.
Well, it's absolutely an option because Team Chaos is going to be something we talk about because you look at these teams. If Clemson wins at 3 losses, if you go to the Big 12 could be a 3-loss champion also.
Yeah.
You go to the SEC, they have so many options that could happen. Right. So we have so many cool things to talk about with all these teams. I do want to go over to our Super Dogs to get out of here. Let me share this page. This is Dustin's Super Dog.
Yep.
And I believe it's still 10. You're still good.
I squeaked it in. So what was the game the other week?
Went to 9.5.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
I have to switch it now.
Yeah,
give me the Gators. I think the Swamp is hard to win, especially when Billy Napier isn't doing a whole juggle my quarterbacks situation. He's actually got a team, and Lagway continues to get more consistent and look better and better with his wide receivers.
Right.
The more he's able to actually play with them and get snaps in, he's still a freshman, an amazing freshman at that. But that team looks fun. Ole Miss, they have lost to Kentucky. They've had some games where they looked really good, dropping 63 on Arkansas.
Yeah, 63 here.
Games where they looked not so good, like losing to LSWho, who has really flopped since then, too. 10-point game. I think it'll be a lot of fun. I think Florida will cover that 10 points. I don't think they're going to win. I would not stamp that by any means. But I think it's going to be really hard for Ole Miss to go in and win by 2 scores in the Swamp.
I also think, this gives you, and we don't really think about this when we talk about these things, but this does give you a push opportunity with a 10-point win, which is always comforting, kind of.
Right.
Because, if you're at 9.5, it's like, oh, never mind, I don't want that anymore. But if you're at 10, it's like, okay, well, I'm more willing. If it's at 10.5, I'm like, okay, yes, that is something I will play because, 10 is a normal situation where football ends 10-point difference.
Right.
So I'm with you completely. I think that Florida has gotten better. And if I look at these scores again one more time, you can see that they played some good teams. In the last 5 weeks, man, they have been really playing some good teams.
Well, coming into the year, big SEC fans like myself knew that their schedule was
hard to schedule in football.
Ridiculous.
So they did well.
They were beating Georgia until Lagway got hurt.
Yes.
Texas, they had again the walk quarterback. Bad for them, but they just nothing going. Texas is really good, so there's that too.
First, defense is first in the nation.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Bringing a walking QB, they never had anything going.
Right.
So, and then they go and kind of stomp LSU.
They beat the brakes off of them.
So, I think they'll have a good fight. It'll be fun.
Fair. Let me go over to mine. And I love it.
I saw the 2 and I was like, I'll let him have it.
Yeah. I mean, look, 12.5. It's getting wider, so we might get better numbers on this.
Which is interesting.
I'm hoping it gets. So we just talked about how the 10 number matters. Well, 13 also matters.
Mm-hmm.
So if we get to 13, that's a button you might want to click on.
Yeah.
They don't have a chance. They don't have a big chance of winning. They're plus 360 to win, but at the same time, they have literally beaten everybody by 30 points, except for Michigan. Michigan was a 5-point game. Michigan is a difficult team to play, and it's the first time they probably ever beat Michigan. I don't even know the record on that. Probably been a long time since they beat Michigan.
Yeah, outside of sport like basketball.
Yeah, emotions had to have been very high in that game. And that now they get past that. I don't know the last time they beat Ohio State. Probably never. But now there's emotions. At least they've seen those types of games where they beat a team that they haven't done ever. And that's going to make them probably, at least hopefully, play better, more comfortable. They are going to Ohio State. I actually liked playing on the road more, funny enough. I don't know. Yeah, I thought that it was like, so when I was at home, there was a lot of distractions, a lot of things you can talk about, like you have your tailgate going on, you have this and that. Of course, you're not part of that, but you can hear those things. You can hear the rumblings and all that stuff. When you're going to away games, it's business.
Yeah.
You go, to the hotel, you go, watch film, you meet. Everything is business related. And when you go on the field, you don't have anybody there that's really going to, like, of course, your family's there probably and things like that, but you don't have things that are going to affect you in the same way of like home games can. You see the same things at home. Right. So I actually liked playing away. Hopefully that is the same for Indiana. And 12.5 just feels a little. Ohio State has not played that well, guys. Like that's my thing.
That's what I'm saying.
If they've been amazing, because actually Indiana has by far exceeded, and they've been blowing teams out. They could have scored more points on some of these teams based on games where they just fooled their players.
Right.
Curtis Rourke is a top 10 Heisman guy right now. So I'm excited. Maybe I'm overly excited. Maybe it's an emotional thing, but I'm excited about 10 Indiana getting to 11 Indiana or whatever we're going to call them next week because they're just good at football and they make me excited to watch. So,
I was asking for the Michigan stats. This was their first win against Michigan since 2020, and prior to that one was 1987.
Oh, there you go.
So
is there
Michigan's 58-11 all time in this game? So lopsided, to say the least.
Do you have any Ohio State stats by chance? Just wondering. I know
against Indiana.
Against Indiana.
I'm sure I can find it real quick while you pull up our next thing.
Actually, that's our last thing, but that's okay. Let me pull this off. But yeah, let me stop sharing and I'll go through. Fun week, very fun week.
Ohio State pulled the all-time series lead. They are 80-12-5.
Well, that tells you everything you need to know.
So it's quite a large.
And if Indiana can do it, that is pushes a team to like playing team games like this. What is that face for?
Last time Indiana beat Ohio State was 1988.
Wow. Okay, well,
They did tie in 1990.
Fair. I'm not picking them to win outright. We talked about that earlier. Yeah. But at the same time, I think that they're good enough to keep this game very close. 12.5 might be too large. And if it gets to 13, I'm really excited about that.
Yeah.
It could also be where Ohio State beats them by 30.
Yeah.
But give me the excitement. Give me the team that has done things that no one expected of them. All these James Madison, 38 James Madison players, coaches, and training staff. Like, give me that team that's going to do something different that no one has seen in a long time. They're exciting. I did want to say something because we actually talked about this. This is the last thing. This is off. This is just like kind of closing, but the teams that were projected to win their respective conferences, not a single one is currently winning their projected conference in the Power Four.
There is that fun fact, and also new arrivals winning.
Right.
Oregon and Texas, notably, being the top two, where they're in new conferences and right now projected to win.
How long has BYU been in the Big 12, though?
This should be their first or second.
Yeah, so even another one.
They might be the other one. I know I saw three, so that might be the third.
So BYU. That makes sense because SEC, and then of course the Big Ten. They're a whole other thing. They've got 4 teams that are gonna have one loss.
Right.
So
they joined in July 1st, 2023.
Right.
This may be their second football season. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
It should be their second football season in the Big 12.
You know what I did forget? You were absolutely right. I did have one more thing. We have to do the
Although Arizona State and Colorado have a chance.
They're Pac-12
teams. Both now Colorado reintroducing themselves.
Right, for sure. I did forget. You were right. We have to do the conference roundup.
Yeah, that's what I was waiting on.
Call me out. I have to go.
Well, I know because we're doing our big breakdown of scenarios and stuff. I didn't know if we were just lumping it all together or you wanted to go ahead and do it real quick.
Let me grab them.
That is basically just be talking about our big changes. So.
Yeah. That was 100% my fault. I thought I had it all right, but you could have called me out. You just say, hey, you don't know what you're talking about. Share. Let's do it. Bam. There it is. All right, guys. My bad. 100% on me. But if you do look up there, these are the new percentages for the SEC. I don't see LSU. It got smaller.
Yeah. I'm going to have those ones. So I only included teams that had more than a 1% chance.
That makes sense.
So that should tell you right there, because otherwise I'd be typing for absolute hours.
Yeah.
LSU is completely at 0-0, though. They have, and there's no way they can win.
Good to know.
The only one on there, I included Tennessee with their 0.1% chance of winning the conference.
Win the conference,
I have no idea the amount of dominoes that have to fall for that to occur, but I just thought it'd be funny too.
Everybody just loses. There's no winning for anybody
even
up top.
A&M's is the only one that low that makes sense, because if they win out, they have to make the conference.
Right.
Because they'll be the only one loss.
Exactly.
Conference team, even though it's low because of Auburn and Texas being the powerhouse they are. But like Ole Miss, South Carolina, but Ole Miss and Tennessee, like I want someone to explain or give me a nice paper of the amount of dominoes they need to fall for those two to actually occur with their 0.1 and 0.7.
Doesn't make any sense to me, I'll be honest. But
it would be a long page.
I hope Ole Miss makes it. Watch out.
To the conference.
Yes, that would be crazy.
Again, you know what? By next week, then you can bring me the.
Yeah, I'll figure. I will figure it out for you. It'll be like this long. But yes, Texas has the best chance of, I believe, the third best chance of making the playoffs, and then also they're most likely going to at least make the conference championship. I see that 38.7. Alabama gets in if Texas beats A&M, so I know that much. That's why that's where it is right now.
Right.
So
yeah, there's a whole lot. So,
and then going to the ACC, we did talk about it. Clemson only gets into the conference championship if Miami loses and they win out. Or actually, it doesn't matter if they win out. What am I saying?
No, they're done.
Yeah, they're done. So it does not matter.
And they're not going to get that large at this point. More than likely, assuming a ton of dominoes don't fall.
I feel like only one of these teams is going to make the playoffs. So whoever wins the conference championship will be that team.
That's how I feel after BYU's loss. I feel the same with the Big 12. I think they're both one bid.
Exactly.
Which benefits the Big 10 and SEC.
Right.
They're large teams, essentially.
Exactly. Looking at the Big 10, all four of these teams, 88.2% chance of making the playoffs. They're all going to be in. And we shouldn't be surprised by it.
Right.
14% chance for Indiana to win the conference, and that is because they have to beat Ohio State this week. 46% chance, which is actually pretty high for Ohio State to win the conference. I'm surprised by that number.
Which I'm assuming, that just has to mean that their odds of beating Oregon are higher than really what it comes down to. It's
basically they're going to beat Indiana. They're 12.5 point favorites, like we talked about. And they're probably also, 4.5 point favorites against Oregon.
Sure. Somewhere between 3 and 5.
Exactly.
Something close.
So, that makes a lot of sense to me. And then let's look at the teams non-Power 4. Notre Dame. Talked about them already. Boise State, 77%. They have to beat UNLV in their conference championship to make that happen.
Yeah, those two will equal each other out.
Tulane at 19% is higher than I expected.
Yeah, I included and Arizona State from our last one. Arizona State shot up from our last week's video. But yeah, they were both just fun additions. Like, hey, there's a chance.
Yeah, and I hope that, I want chaos. So I hope all of this stuff changes, of course, like we just talked about.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the most likely thing is Notre Dame beats Army. Army's out.
Right.
Boise State beats UNLV in the conference championship. Boise State's in. Both of those teams are in. That's how that would work out. The Big 12 and the ACC are much more complicated, and the SEC is by far the most complicated. So we will see. Everything will play itself out, and we will get y'all as many scenarios by the end of this next week.
We will do our best. It will be something.
I'm excited. I'm very excited about it. Now, that was the last thing we were doing.
Yes.
I'm sorry that I completely forgot about that. But yes, let me pull this over here. And we appreciate y'all hanging out with us. Hopefully, you enjoy our show and as much as we enjoy doing it. This is a very fun show. There's a lot to talk about. We don't have a 6-hour show like Pat McAfee, unfortunately. But if we did have the time, we would love to talk about football all day long.
Yeah.
This was a very fun week, though.
Yeah.
And it's going to continue, especially for next week.
Theoretically, should be more fun since we get more answers, too. A lot of this chaos.
Exactly. So we appreciate y'all hanging out with us, and hopefully we'll see y'all next time.
Thank y'all very much for joining us.